Hi, and thanks for joining me. I just wanted to film a preamble to the film you're about to see when I service my engine. I've only been boating for a few years, and whilst I am quite handy, this shouldn't be taken as any form of instructional video. It's not. It's just me servicing my boat. There are many boaters out there with greater experience than I have who could do a better job than I do. But I'm going to show you how I go about it. So this is my take on me servicing my boat for me. I hope you enjoy watching. Hi, and thanks for joining me. I'm about to do an engine service. This for me is an annual service. I last did it in May last year, and it's now May 2023. So it's time to be done again. It's not actually an annual service as such. The boat should be serviced every 250 hours. And it just so happens that that is about what I've done in the last year of cruising, 250 hours, so the time is right. I must make it clear from the outset that this is not an instructional or training video. I'm going to show doing the service my way, as it were. When I first bought the boat, the first service was done by a marine engineer. I called him in so I could see what needed to be done and I could learn from the process, and I took various pictures and notes at the time. Since then I've done the service myself. I did film it some years ago when things went wrong. I couldn't start the engine after I'd done the first part of the service. The reason for that was quite simply that the electric fuel pump had packed up. I didn't realise it straight away, unfortunately. So what I'm going to do today, there are 5 main components that I will be looking at today. These are changing the 2 fuel filters. Then once I've done that, I will run the engine to warm it up and warm the oil up. I will then drain the oil out by pumping it out, and I'll show you that process. I will take off the fuel filter, not the fuel filter, the oil filter. I've already done the fuel filters. I will take off the oil filter and replace that. So that's 3 filters to be replaced and the oil. Once all that is done, I will then deal with the gearbox oil. I always find that a bit tricky. That has to be siphoned out. But last year I did it very well. I was very pleased with how that went. So I'm hoping all will be well. Although I've said there are 5 main things I'll be doing on this service, an actual service does involve other things as well. I have already replaced the air filter. That is recommended to be done also sort of every year, but I think it doesn't get that dirty, so I did that earlier, a month or 2 back, when I bought some of the parts for doing this service, so that has already been done. I will also in this service be draining bleeding the skin tank, and I'll show you how that's done. I'll also be checking the stern gland greaser bolts. I'm not intending to adjust those, so I'm not going to go too much into that, but it is something that has to be considered. Also, repacking the stern gland greaser is something that you might do when you're servicing. But that is the sort of thing that gets done generally during the year as you're cruising, as are many of the other checks that you should be doing. For example, looking at your alternator belts. I've got 2 alternators on this boat, so there are 2 alternator belts. They need to be checked regularly for wear and tightness, for example. Just checking your fluid levels, your water for the engine and so forth. that needs to be checked. Your oil, all these are things that you should be checking regularly during the year. So I'm not really going into those details today. I'm sticking with the main 5 parameters plus bleeding the skin tank. Something I haven't mentioned is water in the diesel tank. It's not an issue I've ever had, and I'm not really the best person to talk about it, so I'm not going to. I'm going to show you some of the tools I've assembled to do the job. I've given it quite a bit of thought this year to make sure that I'm ready and I'm not having to scurry around to find things. So let me show you what I've got. Need to have a bit of a rummage around. When I start, I have to undo the screw on the first filter, and that is a bit of an unusual size. I say unusual. I've always tried to do it with a 12mm spanner, and the 12mm spanner, I've got a couple here. The 12mm spanners are too big, which is interesting because the closed ends won't fit over the nut. The reason for that is it's actually not 12mm, it's 7/16. So I've got an AF socket here which is 7/16. And likewise later on when I come to do the gearbox, my notes show using a 14mm, which is just a little bit too large. And I don't like using over large spanners because you can round the edges of the nuts. So that's part of what I've got. To remove the oil filter, I've got one of these. I'm sure most people are familiar with this. You tighten it up around the filter and then you use it to slacken the filter off. I've also got a hammer just in case I can't do it by hand. Sometimes a few nudges on here with the hammer will help get it loose, so I've got that as well. What I should have said is when I'm dealing with the first fuel filter, the second one by the way is a spin-on, so it's very straightforward. There is underneath the cover to the filter where it screws on, there's a little rubber O-ring that needs to be removed, and I tend to use this hook here. Is very useful to pull down on it and get it off. I struggled with that the first year I did the service. I could not get this little rubber ring off. It was so annoying. But that's what I use. I've got a magnetic one of these in case I drop something. Pick it up. And later on I'll be using this. This is a 6mm Allen key. This is used to slacken off the pump on the oil for pumping the oil out. And as part of that I also use a small piece of hose and the hose connects to one end of the pump and I pump it into here. So that's other bits that I've got here. I've got mirrors as well. 2 mirrors. I've got a mirror like this, can be handy if you want to look underneath something to see what's happening, and they also have a smaller handheld mirror. You can get mirrors on these expandable rods here like this, and I have got one, but the mirror is so small I've never actually used it. But so I've assembled various tools. I've even got this is a radiator bleed screw that I'll be using on the skin tank, just to bleed that and make sure the water is right at the top. So in a minute I'm going to start. I've got my filters to one side here. 2 are fuel filters and 1 is the oil filter. So I'm basically all ready to go. I've obviously bought oil as well for the engine. So let's crack on and see how I get on. One thing I haven't mentioned is the vacuum pump that I'll be using. This is marked as a 1.6 litre manual vacuum oil and fluid extractor, but I'll be using this later to pump out the oil from the gearbox. I forgot to mention that when I deal with the first fuel filter, that's quite messy and you want to put something underneath it, either a plastic bag, I have got a plastic bag available, or a box, something like this. A lot of diesel will come out when you take that one off, and it will spill everywhere. So I also use these puppy training pads which soak up the oil or the spillage of diesel or whatever, so you'll see those in action as well. I should have mentioned that earlier. Oh. It's difficult to remember all the things I want to say, but we'll soon be cracking on anyway. The first thing to remember to do is to turn off the fuel supply, so I'm going to do that now. That's a nice easy job. The easiest of all the jobs, I would say. I should also have mentioned checking engine mountings to make sure they're tight and there's no wear in them. My engine mountings, at least two of them, have been changed at some time because I did check a few months back. So I'm pretty certain that my engine mountings are okay. Anyway, to make a start, the first thing I do is remove this nut here. This is actually a bolt. It runs all the way through and holds the first fuel filter firmly in place. The secondary fuel filter is a screw-on one, as I mentioned before. So with my... Oh, I've just dropped a tool. I don't believe it. Just get this out. Oops. How useful is that? Look at that. So I'll be using this tool on here. So I'm going to get myself ready and make a start. I'm going to start by putting one of these pads under here as best I can. I've decided to use the box. I'll slide that underneath as well as best I can. There will be quite a bit of leakage here. Withdraw this now as it's loose. The diesel is already seeping out. And there we have it. I'm going to put this just here. You can see it probably dripping from here at the moment. I've got two pairs of gloves on. I've got the tighter fitting glove underneath and these disposable ones, or more easily disposable, cheaper ones on the top. But I'll just let that drip. Under here is the O-ring that I was speaking about earlier. I need to get that off. I need to make sure the rubber is off the top as well. There are two rubbers which are of very similar size. You have to make sure you put the right one back in here. The new one, that is, has to go in here. And they do recommend putting some oil or diesel on it, but everything is so wet, so that happens sort of automatically. So that one needs to come out of there. I need to make sure that the right one goes in there. I'm just going to rest that there for a moment. There are actually some dregs in the bottom here, so I'm going to give that a good wipe out, clean it up as best I can. That's looking better now. I have found the ring that fits in here. That goes in there like that. The next thing to do is to remove the ring from under here. I'll see if I can do it by touch. I've always found this a little bit tricky. Oh, done it. There it is. So I need to put a new one of those on. That's the new one there. So I'll fit that under there. Oops. That's gone on nicely. I also have a replacement O-ring for the actual bolt that goes through. So just take that one off and slide the new one on. I have just seated the new ring under here and it's slotted in very nicely. It's very important this goes on square, otherwise it's going to leak. I'll do it finger tight and then I'll tighten it properly. That looks fine. The next task is to unscrew the screw-on filter and replace it with this new one. I might have to move position for that, so bear with me. I've decided it might be easier to do it from this side. So I'm going to use my filter removal tool. It is coming slowly. I think that's got it. Slide that off. If I keep this flat, hopefully, oops, there is some spillage. Oh dear. Let's get it over here quickly. This is the replacement filter, so all I need to do now is screw that on. That's fairly straightforward. That's the first part of the job done, changing both fuel filters. I'm going to have a tidy up and then I'm going to run the engine, but first of all I need to remember to switch back on the fuel line. That went well. It's all going well so far, I'm very pleased. I'm now ready to switch on the engine. I'm just letting the fuel pump through. I'm now going to let the engine run to warm up the engine so I can then drain the oil. It's good to get out in the fresh air. We had some sun this morning. I know that rain is due today and the clouds are beginning to threaten. Now, as I say that, the sun comes out again. I've been running the engine for about 20 minutes now, so I'm going to turn it off and drain the oil. Believe it or not, we've just had thunder. The sun is out. It is getting a bit blustery now, but I'm going to carry on and show you the next stage. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my 6mm, going to put it on here, and I'm going to slacken it off and remove it. Quite straightforward. Quite a long thread on this. Put this on first, I think. The hose is a friction fit, but if it's loose you may need to use a Jubilee clip to tighten it on. And then I start pumping. It is going in. Takes a little while to do it. You can hear now, listen. Not going to get so much out now. I'm sucking air now. So that's that part done. Take that off of there. Put that somewhere so it doesn't leak. Next stage is to make sure I replace the nut. So I'll do that now. And that's that part done. Next part is to remove the old oil filter and fit the new one. I'm just going to slide this underneath the filter now in case any oil comes out. I seem to recall once before quite a lot came out, but last time there was hardly anything. Need to be a bit of a contortionist really. This is the trickier one to undo because you can't get a good grip on it from down here, or from up here I should say. Oh, it started to turn. I'm pleased about that. Let me, I need something to put it in. Let me just take this dish here. I'll pop it in this dish when it comes. I put the dish down here. I didn't expect that to be, oh that's good. Oil is coming out. It's off. A bit of oil is dripping out. It's very difficult for me to do anything about that. This is the new filter to go on. So I'll just remove what's down here as best I can. That's that. Put that out of the way. I have just put some oil around here. Trying to get it as tight as I possibly can. I'm pleased with that. Next thing is to top it up with oil. Last time I put in 4¼ litres of oil. I've already got just under a litre from an old tub of oil. Here it comes. Just getting that one ready for when I need it. I was told not to use a funnel when pouring the oil, so I'm not going to. Just going to put a cloth around the filler though. The first part should be straightforward.
I'm using Morris 10W40 marine oil.
You can hear it draining into the bottom. So that's just under a litre. There are markings on the side here. 1 up to 4.5, and then it's 5 at the top. Here we go. It's difficult to gauge just how much is going in. So I put 1.5 litres in. If I go down to 2, that would be 3 from here and 4 from there. So go down to 2 to start with. I'm just below 2.5. A bit more of a spillage there, but I'm going to check the dipstick now. It will need a while to drain through, but it will give me an idea as to how it's going. It is in the marker between minimum and maximum, but on one side it's a bit blurry, but on the other side it is easier to see. So I know I need to put a little bit more in. I'll do that now, I think. I won't wait. Oops. I think that should be about it for now. I'm going to leave that to settle and check it again in a moment. Oh yes, I'm pleased with that. You can just about see the markers here. Yeah, I'm happy with that, that's fine. The next job is what I've always found to be one of the trickiest, and that's to deal with the gearbox oil. I need to drain that out, and I'll show you how I do it. It's a siphon. It is fairly straightforward. If you can get the siphon in the right position, it shouldn't give any problems. The very first time I did it, I just struggled. But on this occasion, I'm hoping it will go as well as it did last year when I was relaxed. I just got on and did it, and it was straightforward. Let me show you the equipment that I will be using. I'll get this out of the box now and show you properly. That I will be using a little bit later to pour the new oil in. This is the siphon here. So I've got to connect it all together now. This is actually the dipstick. There we go. That's the dipstick. The washer fell off in my hand as well, so it's a good job I caught that. So now I need to set this up. I'll screw that. This part screws into here. Get it nice and tight. This is the plunger that will suck it out. This goes in the top of the bottle. We need to push it in as far as we can. I use this. Yes, that one goes in there. This one then goes on here. That's it. That's it. So now we're ready to pump. So this goes down into the hole, and then I start pumping and hope for the best. Got to build up a head of steam, as it were. It's coming. Hey! I don't know if that will keep siphoning or not. It is, I can see it going up just a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, that's excellent. That really is. I'm very pleased with that. Very pleased. It's actually very clean, the oil that's coming out. Not sure if it's still coming or not. Pump again. I think you can see the level has gone up since I started. Oh yes, here it comes. Oh, that's lovely. What I will do, I will pour this out into a measuring jug so I know how much I've taken out, and I will put the same amount back, plus probably a little bit more. I'm going to call it a day on that. Perhaps not a great success. We'll see in a moment just how much I have taken out. I'm going to pull this out of here now. Take this out of here now. And we'll see just how much oil I've taken out. Just under a pint. So I'm now going to pour that into my oil bottle here. It is very clean, I have to say. That's that part of the operation done. Now I need to think about replacing the oil. You can probably hear the rain beating down now though. So I'm going to use this. This will go into the gearbox and the oil will be put in here. I think I should warm this up really to make it more flexible. This is such a small funnel, I'm going to have to be very careful. Looks like Tate and Lyle pouring syrup. Quite like that. I'm nearly there now. That's it, done. I will try and check it on the dipstick, but it's very difficult to see the oil on the stick. It's not like an ordinary flat dipstick where you can see it quite clearly. The dipstick is actually round, and to work out whether there's any oil there or not is not easy. This is why I say I play safe and put back what I took out, and just a tad more. Not much more though. Well, that's gone fairly well. I'll sort out the dipstick and show you what I mean. This is the dipstick. At the end here there's two little notches. They're about 1 millimetre apart, and I think that's minimum and high. I'm not really too sure, but the oil should be to this point here basically. I will give it a go, but I'm not sure I'm going to have any success. Trouble is, you need to screw it in first in order to take it out again. I'm using a piece of paper, I just find it impossible. I'm going to pretend it's okay. Going to put him back now. The dipstick can't fall out because it's going downwards, but I'll just give it a tweaking with the spanner. Won't get tight. That's fine. Job done. Next thing to do is tidy up and run the engine. But there is one more thing that I mentioned right at the start, which is to bleed the skin tank. So I'm going to do that now. To bleed the skin tank, I have to take the cap off the expansion tank, which is inside the boat in the cupboard right at the back. I can just see water coming now. That's fine. I've finished the service that I wanted to do. I've changed the 3 main filters, 2 fuel filters and 1 oil filter. I've changed the oil in the engine, and I've put new oil in the gearbox, having taken out some of the old. I've done it as best I can. And I've also bled the skin tank. The skin tank is on the side of the boat inside here, and it's where the water recirculates. It's like a radiator that you have in a car, except it's always in contact with the cold water, and that helps cool it and cool the engine. The sun is out now, the birds are singing. It is so different to what it was this afternoon. It's now late afternoon and it's absolutely glorious. I hope you've enjoyed watching me service the boat. It's something I tend to do annually. I get my 250 hours in each year, and then I service the boat. It's a task I don't really look forward to doing, I have to admit that. And I decided this year to film because I didn't film last year and possibly the year before. I don't really recall. I think I just mentioned that I'd done it a couple of years ago. So I thought I would do it. I think every year I take it on, I get a little bit more proficient, so I'm happy how things have worked out. There haven't been any real problems at all. It's taken me quite a while to do it though. Setting the cameras up when your hands are full of diesel or oil is not easy. Getting them in the right position. Most of the cameras don't have a front-facing screen to look at, so I can't actually see what I'm filming, so that makes it a little bit more awkward as well. But I'm happy with the outcome. It all seems to be fine. I hope you have enjoyed watching. All that remains for me to say is look after yourselves, your friends and families. Take the utmost care with whatever you're doing. Until next time, bye for now. Take care everyone. Bye.